Hello and welcome to another long play video. Now I think I'm playing someone here who's actually a gold member, so I'm really hoping I won't have to turn on the cheat alarm, because oh my words, I'm literally like a one-man cheat finder on chess.com at the moment, as you've probably been seeing. But I suppose in a way, even though it pisses me off, let's be honest, it's never fun playing a cheat. I suppose in a way it doesn't matter, because the whole point of these videos is to really go inside my mind and really try to sort of understand how a grandmaster thinks. So that's what I'm going to do in this game as well, whatever happens. And now I've played the Dutch in most of my games, and I've tried to pick to the same openings in the past videos, but I think in this one I'm going to play this little move, and this is an opening I sometimes play against C4 and D4. This is called the English defense, and I'm going to play this now, just a little bit of a change. It's a very interesting move. It became popular in about the 1970s with maverick players like Tony Miles, Spielman, Raymond Keane, people like this, and it's a lot of fun when white plays E4. Now I'm hoping my opponent doesn't play G3, which is a pretty good system against this. Okay, E3, I don't think it's a very good move. First of all, when you play moves like this, you've got to consider your pieces. And what's this guy doing on C1? He's trapping in the bishop on C1. So now I'm going to transpose to a Dutch type of structure by going F5. And this is a good Dutch because I've managed to get my bishop on this diagonal, which you rarely are able to do in the Dutch defense. Normally the bishop stays on C8, and later on when you go D6 and E5, the bishop tries to come out, but this is quite a good version of this. Okay, so now I could flick in a check, which is totally playable, but let's just continue with standard development. So I'll move my knight here, and I know already one of the main ideas in this sort of structure is to castle later on kingside and swing the rook around. And I think I had another game very similar to this actually in this time limit. So okay, I mean, you know, also G6 is a perfectly good move, and put the bishop here. Now I kind of want to meet knight C3 with bishop here and exchange off, because a lot of time it's about the fight for this square. But I don't have a very good waiting move. Now, even moving bishop d6 is not crazy. This is quite a unique way of playing, because the bishop has potential over there. But the normal move here would be bishop e7. So let's stick with bishop e7 for now. I'm not going to try to do anything particularly special. Like I do in most of my games, what I attempt to do is just, you know, develop my pieces first. So don't do anything special. So let's just get castled, and only later on. Hello phone, you're not on silent, are you? And only later on think about what specific tactical ideas. But already one thing you really got to know when you're playing, when you pick an opening like I pick here, you've got to know the middle game plans. And like I said, this rook coming over is a middle game plan. The other thing, I don't want to allow e4. This is, you know, you've also got to consider your opponent's plans and stop his good plans. I don't want him to play that, because his bishop gets out, he freezes opening up. So there's two ways of stopping that, either bishop b4 or knight to e4. Now knight to e4 would be the normal move, when the critical would be bishop takes, pawn takes, knight d2. And my opponent would be hitting this pawn in that position. What options do I have there? Well, I've got a number of pretty decent options. D5 is one. I don't want his queen really coming here, do I? I'm just trying to think. The other thing is, I'm wondering there if I have bishop d6, and if he takes on e4, do I have a bishop takes h2, which probably leads to an equal position. So knight to e4 is okay. I kind of like this idea. My bishop's not a great piece, and swapping it off a piece that controls e4 is certainly a tempting possibility. So here takes, bishop takes, knight to e4, and what's that kind of position like? Well, he can take there anyway, and it's pretty even. So okay, so I'm now going back to knight e4, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight d2. This is where I need to find a good move. Now d5 is not really what I want to play because it blocks my bishop in, if you're following that. So he got this f3 break, which I've talked about before. So I want to have something better there. Now bishop d6, knight takes here, bishop h2, king takes, queen here check, king g1, bishop. Okay, I'm not so keen on that either. So I'm going to play bishop b4. I think I had to pick one of these two moves because I've got to stop this e4 idea. And now I fully expect him to move his bishop to d2, because if e4 now, I'll take on c3 and win a pawn. So I'm just trying to get rid of this knight. And you can see earlier on, I already know that this exchange of the bishop for knight is quite a good thing to do in this type of structure, because it's all about the central control. So again, it shows you that when you pick openings, you've got to know the middle game ideas of both sides. You've got to restrain your opponent's ideas, and you've got to push your own ideas through. This is such a key thing to do. And books don't always tell you this. Chess books don't. I think videos are actually better in a way because they tell you the plans, what you should be planning in certain things. And you know, my main plan is really, I'd love to, in an ideal world, go knight e4 and then swing my rook over here, but it's quite hard to achieve. So my opponent's played the sensible move here. Now, how do I develop? Now, a5 is a very normal move, because then if a3, I can take and go a4, and I have a hold of this square. That's a positional idea. You can see this is a normal idea, a5. Knight e4 here looks funny because the knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes here. Other moves, I've got to try to get my last piece out. I'd want to put it on d7. So if I go d6, you in that position have to watch out for the move d5. It's not so scary at the moment because, well, you know, a pawn on d7 because my pawn protects that one. So d6, and then if he goes d5, the problem is I can't really go e5 because he goes bishop takes pawn. So I'm going to go a5. I'm going to go a5, and for the time being, just leave my knight here. It just supports my bishop a little bit more. And after a3, I'm going to take, because it's more important to control this square. And now I'm going to think, what do I do here? I've got a4, and I think I'm going to play this. This is my follow-up of my plan. As I said, I want to get control of b3, and also I didn't want him to play b4 in that last position, because then he gets this pawn mass on the queen side. This is the plan really worth considering in your own games, to get hold of the b3 square. It also gives me a plan potentially of now moving my knight into b3. It gives me other ideas of this, but it's really very important because this one pawn holds up my opponent's queen side. Okay, so my opponent is again trying to play e4, and it must be right to play knight in now. Must be. Knight in, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop moves here, and then my queen can come over somewhere. I'm not even going to think about this. I don't need to think in that position because I don't want him to play e4. And that's the one break I'm trying to control. So I'm just going to play this one quickly. Like I said so many times before, when you've got an obvious move, you know, there's no point really thinking about other moves. I know there's this thing that says, you know, when you've basically see a good move, look for a better one. I don't even know if I always follow that. I'll be honest. If I see a good move, I'll just stick with it. You know, why not? Why waste my time looking for a better move? I don't always follow these rules, which are so-called the way to do it. Okay, right. So now what do? Do I take the knight or the bishop? Now, if I take the bishop, does that even help his pawn structure? You know, in some respects. If I take the knight, well, I think I'm going to take the bishop definitely, because his bishop had good control on the central squares. His knight's a lot worse. And now I've got another plan. Of course, he's going to go here. My ideal setup would be to go d6, e5, and f4. So if I go d6 here, f4, he will go e5. That's the slight issue with that. This e5, this move e5. So what about if I go knight c6 here, he still goes e5. And puts it, you know, this pawn coming to e5 is annoying because then he has a very good bishop, etc. So, I mean, I could swing my queen over now and try to do the rook swinger, but I don't really have enough pieces to get this one to work. So I really want to play d6. And then if e4, can I just play knight d7? I'm one tempo away from being absolutely fine. If he takes here, pawn takes, he has queen e6 check. King here, bishop takes f5, and then I have maybe rook f6 there. No, he has queen takes d7. Okay, so again, you can see all positional ideas need to be backed up by tactics, and you've got to sharpen yourself up so you get ready for these. So d6 is the move I really want to play, so I want to play this move, but I don't know if I can get it to work. e4, and I need a good move there. So f4 is what I want to play, pawn here, and if I take, he takes with the queen. Don't like it. So do I have to play around that? Do I have to go knight here, here? Which of course he'll play f4, e5 again. And this is a little bit annoying, so I need to really find a good way to deal with this. Do I go e5 now? No, that's silly. So this move, I want to meet with this, but I don't want his pawn coming forward. So what do I do? What do I do? Do I even go rook here? Is that here, here, pawn here? I mean, d6 here, here, here just seems like the right plan for me. But how is that? Because I take, he has this queen takes, which is very annoying. And you can see now I'm taking a lot more time because this is quite a big moment. I got to avoid slipping into a worse position here. I shouldn't be worse, but his plan of just going here and here is a bit frustrating. So pawn here, here. Do I have any other move? Do I just go king h8? And then he takes. Maybe I go king h8. His knight's still bad. Let's do this. This feels right to try to put my knight here. And now after e4, which of course he has to play, because if I get time to play e5, I'm better. His double pawns are going to be a long-term weakness. His pawn on a3 is a long-term weakness later on in the game. So he has to play e4. There's absolutely no doubt. I mean, maybe he could try f4 then e4 as well. That's the only other thing which he could try, but e4 is clearly the move to play. So e4, if I go f4, he goes e5, which is annoying. So here, I'm just thinking about going king h1 to stop pawn takes pawn and queen e6 check. And my plan is, after, if I can go knight d7 and f4, if he ever plays e5, I can take on e5, but I just don't want him taking with the queen on e5, because I'm thinking of how the transformation of the structure will be. And if you can see that, if he gets his pawn to e5, and I have to, I take, and he takes with the queen, I don't like that, because this pawn, and I know this from the Dutch structure on numerous occasions, is a serious weakness. So I think I'm just going to go king h8. I'm just going to play king h8 and then see what he does after that. So I mean, let's just check that one more time. So pawn here, I want to play this move, but then pawn here. Okay, well that to my eyes is certainly a move I'm very, very happy to see. So e5, I mean, is he going to go c5? So obviously I'm thinking about my opponent's idea. I'm moving a bit slow. So actually before going e5, I'm just going to stop his one intention with that, because now I can take and bring my knight in. So we might as well stop our opponent's ideas if we can. And this is the move I want to play. And now the point is, if he goes here, I will play f4. And if he goes e5, I will take with my pawn. And he can no longer take with his queen because my knight's on that square, and if he takes with his pawn, I have knight c5, and that is absolutely, positionally speaking, probably winning for me. Winning. If I get my knight to this square, positionally speaking, it's winning. And if my opponent doesn't do anything, I'm just going to move in the center with e5, and this is one of the main ideas in the Dutch, and it's an idea I'm very tempted to play here. Could he go rook a5 and try to win this little pawn? Could he do that? Rook b4 even, and go bishop c2, queen d1, winning here. He could do. That takes him a lot of tempo in order to do that. I mean, I have to say, I think rook b1 is a slight error. To me, to my eyes, it's a slight error. Now, while we wait for him to move, I'm going to stop mentioning this in the future, but my course is still 50% off, only until Saturday. And I'm going to put a link in below where you can watch an hour and a half of it for free. So go and check out the link below. You don't have to pay anything, so it's an hour and a half, and then you can have a little taster of what the course is like. And like I say, it's a great way to help support me and help me do more of these videos for free because obviously we need to get a bit of payment for something in life to keep doing other things for free. And this is the course I'm talking about. It's 16 hours of my knowledge I've gathered over 30 years of chess, you know, at top level for a number of years. And it's half price only until Saturday. And the link there, which I'll put in the description bar, is where you can get it from. Okay, so my opponent, right, back to the game. So my opponent has gone bishop c2. And this is maybe trying to win this one. So I could like maybe just gambit it here, rook here. The other thing I could do is maybe hang on to it, rook a5 and queen a8. That's a really bizarre way of hanging on to it. Am I worried about him winning? I'm really not that concerned about him winning this pawn. It's not something that's gonna terrify me. But I need to, you know, you've got to be always thinking of a plan. So rook here, rook b4, queen here, queen d1, for example. And it feels like I'm playing a bit negatively there. e5, rook here. And the thing is, if he wins his pawn here is going to be weak. I'm just going to continue. I mean, I think, of course, this does involve me gambiting my pawn on a4, which actually, you know, is also a little bit of a weakness. So I think he's played a good move. He might as well try to win a pawn because his e4 move wasn't working then. So this is correct. And now he should continue with this one. But I'm wondering if he goes here, can I go c5? Rook takes pawn and then just go rook b8 and try to embarrass his rook. Because c5 is not, you know, it's a double-edged move because I weaken b6 and d6. But it's also maybe quite an interesting option here. The other thing I could do is go bishop c6 and try to tempt him into playing this move, which he will win a pawn, but I get the lovely c5 square. So these are the two options here. And the other thing I can do is just play in the center with something like queen here, and then try to move my rook to this square. I've got a lot of decent options, so let me have a think. If he goes bishop takes, maybe then I go c5. So he can't go bishop takes. He has to go rook takes if he wants to win that pawn. And he's losing quite a lot of tempo doing that. So if I go here, rook takes. Should I just play this one? Bishop c6 first. I like that move for some reason. I'm just going to play this one because, I don't know, c5 was also a very critical move there because that might have actually hanged on to my pawn. But I'm trying to keep the option of moving my knight there. Probably c5 is a better move now I think about it. Okay, but now I've allowed him to do this. But I've tried to, every pawn move that you make creates a weakness, pretty much, and that pawn move has weakened the square. So I'm hoping now, even though he's going to win a pawn somehow, I'm hoping my knight will have fantastic compensation on this position. The one thing I want to avoid, though, is his knight coming to b3 and exchanging itself off for my clearly superior piece. But his pawns, even though he's a pawn up, his pawns are static on the queen side, meaning that's where he's going to have his pawn advantage. But I don't think he'll ever have a good pawn break over there now that he's played d5. So I don't think this extra pawn doesn't really bother me what the computer says. The computer might say it's an extra pawn, Simon, but we don't mind about these things. So I'm just going to now obviously continue with knight c5. And I've got the center under control. I can maybe rearrange my forces to do something here, but my pawns are very good here. If he ever tries to push one of his pawns, f4 or e4, I'm going to meet that by pushing the other pawn. So for example, if he ever goes f4, I go e4. If he goes e4, I go f4. And by doing this, I keep a space advantage and I keep his pieces out of the game. I don't really want to open things up so that his pieces over here get active, because at the moment they're very bad pieces. So this is an interesting pawn sack I think I played here. And you know, it's a positional. This is quite a positional game we're playing. This is kind of, I think my bishop c6 is one of those moves again which works quite well against lower rated players. When I mean that, below IM level, because it's clearly setting up a positional trap. And, you know, people get quite transfixed of winning a pawn and they dive in. And then they're sort of left with a position like this. And I'm sure this is good compensation. Now, I'm going to just try to, you know, probe his weakened pawns over here. And now my queen's coming in to attack this one. Knight b3 is the move he wants to play, because I don't think he wants to allow my knight to sit here for a long period of time, does he? Certainly, I wouldn't want to allow my knight to sit there. But maybe he has to go knight b1 and go passive. So, okay, what do I do? How do I increase this? My pieces are looking good. Do I put this here? But I'm not sure how I intensify the pressure on this one. Do I even think of knight a4, but then I allow him to swap my lovely knight off? Takes, queen takes, but then this pawn is very weak, but his knight does come back to d2. Do I even consider some break with b5? Pawn takes, bishop takes d5, because then my bishop comes stronger. It seems like my queen and rook are the wrong way round. I'm going to play this. Maybe it should have gone to a6, but I couldn't see how I increased the pressure here. I'm playing this one because my bishop on b7 wasn't very good, and I just want to place it on d7 when I have opportunities to come over here. I think my opponent should go a4, but I just want to put my bishop here. My bishop is improving its placement then, and this certainly then gives me options of exchanging over here. Later on I might have opportunities to come out of this file, and I think my plan will be to go here. Then I can maybe consider b5, or just trying to increase some pressure over there with the rook coming here. And again, my opponent's very tied down in this position at the moment. He's on the back foot here. So do remember, yeah, I keep mentioning my course. After Saturday, I won't mention it, but you know, it's a good time to get it now before Saturday, because if we just have a look at how much time we got left, look at that. They've even got the ticking clock there, and you've got 2 days left to get it at this half price cost. After those 2 days, it certainly becomes $150. I think it's still good value, but I'm going to say that. But the price obviously does increase somewhat. So you know, if you want to get it, it's a good time to get it now. Okay, so what should I be doing here? Well, I now have the opportunity to maybe exchange off bishops. Do I want to do that? Neither of our bishops are great, but if I do that, if I do like I do, queen takes, that does then give me options and maybe pushing this one when I don't allow this in here. I quite like that idea, swapping off bishops actually. I'm not sure my queen should be over here now. I think this helps me because, you know, we've just got to think what pieces it's okay to swap off, which pieces it's not okay. Now, as long as I keep this fantastic, beautiful knight on this fantastic, beautiful outpost here, and I don't allow my opponent to swap off this knight, then I'm feeling quite happy here. Right, so what is my opponent going to be trying to do? Well, I'm now swapping off this bishop, and this now gives me an opportunity, I think a better opportunity, to move one of these two pawns. And I'm liking this one because then my knight has another square. f4 is also quite tempting because I have this square for my queen. Which one do I like? Do I rush either of them? Do I play this or this? If I go here, I have knight d3. Okay. I think I'm going to play this one because I don't want his knight ever to get to this square though. f4, e4, and I'm not sure what my next move is there. I could just go rook a8, I suppose. I'm going to play this, and, you know, like I say, every pawn weakens a square. I've weakened this square. This is my main sort of concern. But if his knight ever does try to get in there, I can't allow the knight in there. If his knight gets there, he gets a better outpost. But I mean, worst case, I can sometimes swap my knight off if I'm going to win a pawn. Because imagine, if I'm going to win a pawn in some ending, he's still got his double pawns. So I'm assuming here he's going to play f4, trying to keep the position closed on the king side. Because if he plays anything else, then I may be able to switch my initiative to the king side. And he's very passive in this position. But what I'm thinking is, after he goes here, well, my knight could jump in immediately, but I don't see what that achieves. I think I'm going to switch with rook a8. And then, okay, so I've been thinking about this during his time. So this is what I'm going to switch. And now I want to stop him going a4, because the whole thing is his knight at the moment is tied down to his a pawn. So if he can ever defend his a pawn, his knight can move. So I think I've stopped him going a4, because if he plays a4, I go knight d3, I attack his rook, and his rook can't defend a4 anymore. That's why I went for this e4 move rather than f4, because it gives me the option of this one. Now, I'm very tempted to play an ending here. You know, the ending looks very tempting to me. Queen here takes, rook here. But I don't think I'm going to, because I can't see a way to break through. But I'm not worse than that ending. I'm going to keep the queens on, just for the fact that it gives me more chance to maneuver. And what I want to do, I think I want to swap my queen and rook around on the queen side. But I'm also thinking, you know, if I play queen c8, can I get anything on the king side going? Should I be trying to play pawn breaks? You know, if you've got to some kind of stalemate-ish position, not stalemate as stalemate, but, you know, a standoff, you should really be looking for pawn breaks. So should I here be trying to arrange the move g5? I mean, it's a very risky move to play. I'd have to go king here, maybe get my queen to f6. That's a good square for my queen, and then try to play that one. Then it might work. But I'm only going to do that if I can get some of these pieces over on the king side. So that way I'm trying to stretch him on two areas of the board. I'm stretching him on the queen side, and I'll be stretching him on the other side. So, right, what's my opponent trying to do? We should always consider this. I can't see anything too much, so I think I can now transfer my queen here with one idea of putting my rook to a4. That's my one idea. He still can't move his knight, and the other idea is to basically bring my queen to, like I said, somewhere where it has dual purpose. Okay, so my opponent is potentially, that could be his plan. He's found a square for his queen. He's found a square for his queen. That's probably his idea. I mean, this is a hard position to break through. Maybe it's not as good for me as I thought, but I can't be worse with this one. But I need to find a way to break through. So the thing is, if I ever go rook a4, he goes rook b4, and I have to ask myself, how has that helped me? Okay, so he's just sitting here and waiting at the moment. So how do I make progress here? Do I now put my queen on f6 and go for this? Is my king better on f7? I just want to find little ways to improve my position. I'm going to put my king here because it doesn't seem like my opponent's doing anything, because I'm now thinking that I'm going to have to play g5 to make the breakthrough. So I'm going to get, I'm going to try and improve my position by getting ready to really make g5 powerful. With my king here, my rook can come to g8, and I need to open up a second front. This is the typical idea. You might be better on one area of the board, which I am on the queen side. Yes, I'm a pawn down, but in order to win the game, you need to create a second front, a second weakness in the position. But let's just see. As long as I stop my opponent's counterplay, I'm quite happy here. And I think the only way he's going to get counterplay is by being able to get his knight to this kind of route. But if he moves his knight, I will take on a3, and I get my pawn back, and I keep a little advantage because of his weakened c pawns. Maybe he should just try something like that, because it's very difficult for my opponent. Imagine you're white here. What does white do? I've got these subtle ideas. Now, I'm not going to allow any nonsense over here with a check, so I'm just going to defend against that one, of course. And I don't know, should he even play h4 here? Is that, you know, I kind of feel like I'm always going to be stronger on the king side because his rook is really out of place. I mean, I can just get this one over quite quick. Okay, so he's gone here. And now I just continue my plan. So here we go. And of course, I'm stopping his queen coming in. But this is kind of where I wanted my queen anyway. I wanted it on f6, I feel. And then I wanted to play this g5 move. This is like, you know, one of my main ideas. I've got knight d3 at a moment's notice. It's a pity that rook a4 is met by rook b4. This is a pity because otherwise I could really start targeting that. Okay, so he's moving his queen over here. Is he really going to go queen there? I think then I should better take the queens off, surely. Surely. Queen here, takes. Looks like that should help me in some way. I mean, maybe I should go knight d3 and rook here. That's a good technique, isn't it? Well, let's go here. I'm thinking now, if he really, I'm going to see if he wants to exchange queens, because a lot of people think, okay, I'm a pawn up, exchanging queens in any position is good. I found a good plan. I found if I go knight d3, I can then go rook a4, because he can't block rook a4 with this. He has exchanged queens. Now, okay, so I can take and go knight d3. He can't move his knight because I take here. Is there any way to stop me, you know, for him to stop me going here and here? I can't see it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick with my plan of taking and going knight d3 and then rook a4, trying to pick up his pawns. If he moves his knight, I pick up this pawn. My knight here stops any potential idea of him getting his king to a better square. And now I'm going to continue with my plan of just trying to start picking off his pawns on this area of the board. You know, if I get one pawn back, I'm going to have all my advantages with equal material. So he's now, I mean, what the duck is not happy. I'm trying to keep this one a bit more PC. I don't believe what he did there. He's trying to keep the position blockaded, but really? I don't believe that at all. I don't believe he should have done that. His idea will be to now bring the king to this square and try to push these pawns, but it's my move. Now, a normal idea would be this to, you know, but I don't know about that. Another idea, I need to try to get my king in, don't I? So how about I play h6. You need open lines to the rook, so I'm playing this one with, if he goes h4, I have an idea later on to get my rook around the back. If he takes this one, I'm going to try to pick up this pawn with my king and give myself an opportunity at the right stage of the game to play f4. I mean, my rook's better than a knight there, but I think his position probably was actually just crumbled, because if I'd have won a pawn, he would have the same trouble. So maybe he just thought, I need to take a drastic measure here in order to avoid completely, you know, losing without a fight. So that's what he's done. And it's not a bad idea. I mean, generally, that kind of strategy works well. The strategy that if the position's going, you know, rubbish, you need to do something drastic. But I do feel that his drastic was very drastic there. And this is the wrong idea. He's defending passively. He needed to guard his a-pawn and then get his knight into the game. That was his only sort of thing. Passive defense is never good. And my idea is to get my king to e5, go f4, and create a passed pawn here. I will probably move my rook to this square, because there's also now a weakness on h3. So his idea of moving his king across is going to be very slow now, because my rook will take this pawn. So I've kept him on the passive. If he ever tries h4, well, I will take it and my rook gains an open line. And really, he's in a position where he has no moves he can play. He can't move his knight. He hasn't got any good pawn breaks. These pawns are stationary. They can't break anywhere. If he goes h4, that's only going to help me. And I'm just going to... There's no reason why I can't now create a passed pawn. So f4. And I'm going to create a passed pawn. And also, as well as creating a passed pawn, I'm opening up more lines where my rooks can swing into the game. So I think at least my opponent is not a cheat, which is good. Get in there. Get in there. Oh god, there's so many. I've only lost one game against the non-cheats actually. So even though my rating is shockingly bad, I think it's a little bit of a misrepresentation of actually the standard that I've been. I've only lost one game against, and that was when I was streaming against the Druid. Can't remember his full name. Loner Druid. So it certainly is not. I mean, I've been doing okay. So okay, right. Well, this should. I mean, you should never relax, but this is really, as I say, a matter of technique. As long as you watch out before the nightfall. So my opponent has resigned. So that went all right. Well, before we go over that game and look at the key moments of that game, I'm going to just show you again, just while you've got time to get the course. Now, I'm going to give a link in the description where you can watch over an hour's worth of this latest product I've made for free. So, go and watch it for free if you don't want to buy it. And, obviously, if you want to support me, which will help, then please do buy it before Saturday because you'll get a better offer. It'll be better for you. And, the new course, like I say, I'm going to put a link that you can buy it in the description. Do get it before Saturday. And, there is a link there to a freebie thing. I'll also put that in the description. I showed you the promotion thing earlier, so I won't talk about this more. But check out the links, below, and especially check out the YouTube link I'm going to place below because that will take you to the course and you'll see this, a little bit of it for free. Okay, now back to the game. So, the opening, I mean, let's just dive into around here. I know this is pretty equal kind of position. White can't ask for an advantage when he plays this early e3 with a bishop on c1. If White's going to play this setup, I think he should have got the bishop to g5, for example, first. And later on, this is all very normal. Do remember this plan of when your opponent has a pawn on a3, going a4. Because if I don't play that, my opponent's going to go b4. And imagine how different the structure would be then. I would be struggling on the queen side because I have to, take it. And he has then this pawn mass, which is going to create all sorts of bother. So a4 is a good positional move, trying to secure the b3 square for myself. And now my opponent played it, I think, pretty well. Knight d2. He's threatening e4. I don't want to allow this because he will open up his bishop. So I stop it by plonking and blockading. f3. And now I take the bishop because his pawns are always a little bit weak now. And as we're going to see, that really tells. d6. And here, I think he played his major error. He should be going e4. When I want to meet this with f4, and then if I get one more move, e5, I'm laughing. If I get my pawns on these dart squares, his bishop is absolutely atrocious then. Look at his bishop. His bishop will be trapped in for eternity, but he can play e5 here, and this move put me off this idea because what I was saying is, look at his bishop. He's got the e4 square. He's got I didn't like this. So had he gone e4 in that position, it would have been a totally different ball game. And rook b1 was a mistake. I mean, what I was going to play, I was just going to play, I want to play knight d7, but then he takes and he checks here and he takes here. So I was just going to play king h8. I was going to wait and see what his next move was. My idea is to now go knight d7 and then go f4 and e5. And after knight d7, if he ever goes e5, I certainly take here. If my opponent plays e5 now, maybe this is not as good for him because it's better for me to have a pawn on f5 now. Remember, every pawn move makes weakened squares. Imagine, would you rather have your pawn here or on f4? I'd rather have it here because it defends this square, so I stop his pieces coming to e4. So already I've made a slight bit of progress here. And this is probably just a dynamically equal position. And the rest of the game, I mean, I had various ways I could play it, but it seemed to go pretty according to plan, didn't it? I mean, my opponent went for this pawn, but by playing d5 in this position, by playing his pawn to d5, he destroys his structure positionally. He has no pawn breaks after this move. You know, you should never try to make your pawn static unless you have to. You know, having a pawn on d4 is much better for him, because then he will have ideas of playing c5 at some point. He will have this break where he might be able to get a piece to c4. He can't do that when he has no pawn supporting c5. He also has ideas of taking on e5, but as soon as he plays d5, even though he wins the pawn, I really don't like his position. Maybe it's about equal here, maybe it's still equal, but it's so much easier for me to play because he has to defend in such a horrible passive way. And the rest of the game was, I'm going to say, quite easy. It's just thinking about manoeuvring my pieces to the best squares. My bishop is my worst piece, so let's try to swap off my worst piece. I swap off my worst piece, and that makes things better. And as soon as I swap it off, I just got to stop this knight getting in, and I now get another square for my knight. And we saw that eventually I came to the right plan, and eventually I found the right plan. I probably could have done it here, to be honest. Knight d3, and eventually rook a4 would have been the right way to do it. I mean, I might have to go rook a6, queen a8 first, but very tricky position for my opponent to defend. So thank you very much for watching that. And again, if you do enjoy my way of teaching, please be tempted to buy the course, and buy it directly from iChess is cool. They've been very kind with the royalty things, much better than other companies I've worked for. Not as good as GingerGM, obviously, but we haven't done it. I have never done anything like this, and that course you can check out in the YouTube link below. So go and do that now, or maybe have a rest if you're sick of my voice, and I'll see you soon. By the way, I might be streaming later tonight. I haven't decided. I think it's very likely I'm going to throw a stream together in the evening, so you know, keep an eye out for that one as well.